Hello and welcome to this week's Chatty Corner. Well, I say week. There have been many weeks without a Chatty Corner, and I'm eternally sorry. I am very sorry. There are a number of reasons for this. Mostly just being very ill, which is never good. I've had the world's longest cold, which has prevented me from recording stuff. And simultaneously, I'm struggling to sort of catch up on a lot of my backlog of what I wanted to record. Gravity Rush, of course, was delayed, and I've had to extend my scheduled recording for another week. I'm still playing catch up. This is the last week of recording Gravity Rush. Last week should have been, but things got so delayed as a result of various different factors, mostly being ill for the world's longest cold. Still kind of hangs around a bit, and I'm having to take stuff from the doctor. It might be allergies. They're saying it could be that, not necessarily a cold, which would certainly make sense why it doesn't go away. So, yeah, sorry about the lack of Chatty Corners for the past few weeks. And yet, you're also getting an avalanche of Ferret's Firsts because I've got a backlog of that stuff as well. I still had all of March's stuff to record, as well as all of April's. This is PlayStation Plus stuff. I still have all of March's games to cover, as well as all of April's. So I've been trying to get through all those as well. So yeah, you are getting an avalanche of Ferret's First, though, as a result of that over the next 2 weeks. You've already seen a couple by now. Yeah, because you would have seen Flame Over already, and Galaxy is going up the same day as this. And there's going to be a bunch more. I've got a bunch of other stuff coming along the way. I've recorded loads of different ones. And in addition, I will be covering Ratchet and Clank. Hopefully it's going to turn up on Friday. If it does, then I'm going to play it. And I'm going to do an hour for its first on Ratchet and Clank, the new one, obviously. Like I said, it's scheduled to turn up Friday. Whether or not it does, we'll see. But more importantly than that, obviously Mirror's Edge has finished weeks ago, and I didn't say anything about this in the week, the immediate Chatty Corner, the one that would have been going up around about the same sort of time as the last part of Mirror's Edge. I deliberately left it, and I was like, I'm going to discuss this the next week, and then that was the beginning of the long drought of Chatty Corners, the complete lack of Chatty Corners for several weeks. And yeah, so this is the first opportunity I've had now to finally say it publicly. If you noticed at the end of Mirror's Edge, the new Let's Play was announced. This is going to be a thing. Every single Let's Play is going to have a preview for the next Let's Play to come. So that's cool, right? Yeah. And I've got, obviously I did a little thing where, I got a phone call from an old friend. And we're doing something different with that old friend, rather than doing the same thing we've been doing for years with that old friend. Basically, I'm doing the Tomb Raider reboot, the 2013 Tomb Raider. I'm doing that one. That's going to be a thing, because I actually kind of wanted to do one for a while. When I did Tomb Raider 3, I obviously put it to a vote of whether or not you wanted to see an old one again, or if you wanted to see the reboot, and people voted for the third one, and I'm like, okay. And I did that one, and by the end of it, was not happy with it. It's alright. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad LP, it's kind of going through the motions, and there's too many bits where I was just like, I'm not enjoying this, this is ridiculous. Yeah, so the reboot is one that I'm really looking forward to doing, because I actually like that game, even though it doesn't really feel like a Tomb Raider game. But hey, we work with it, So, yeah, that's it really. We got Tomb Raider coming. It's going to start in the coming weeks. I'm not going to give you a specific date. I'll probably tell you the week before it's scheduled to go up that it's going to go up. I haven't even started recording it yet. That's why I said coming soon, because the idea is it's going to be in a few months. That's what's going to happen at the end of each LP, is I'm going to try and overlap things. I said I'm trying to record two weeks worth every week, and then obviously you get. So I'm like, by about halfway through the LP, I should have recorded all of that LP, like as you see it. Once I'm halfway through, when you see it, then I should be finished off camera. If that makes sense, and should be starting to record the next one, and then a few weeks into that, that's when the next thing comes in. But of course, Gravity Rush isn't halfway yet. It's almost there, but it's not quite there. Yeah, we've got that starting. It will be. I think it will be starting next month. I think. I'm going to start recording it next week. Yeah, and that's going to be fun. It'll be an interesting one, and that's going to run alongside Gravity Rush for a while, and then obviously, when Gravity Rush finishes, something should replace that one, and there's going to be the overlapping things, as I've said. Every time an LP finishes, you get a preview for the next LP. So there you go. It's as simple as that. So yeah, we Tomb Raider. It'll be fun. I would cover your comments, but they were so long ago that I'd be surprised if you guys even remember leaving the comments that I would be bringing up. So, never mind. Instead, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of comments on games that I've been playing in that intervening time. I've been still doing the chronological challenge, and I've finished the 90s. I'm out of the 90s. I've now started 2000. And the last games of the 90s that I played were The Longest Journey, which was an old point-and-click adventure. People would recommend. I'd seen loads and loads of recommendations for this, and people saying, like, if you're into point-and-click adventures, you have to play this one. So I was like, okay, it's on Steam, I'll get it. So I played through it. It's really, really good. It is seriously good. It is very weird, sort of sci-fi and fantasy simultaneously. It's about two worlds, and you're all supposed to bring balance to these two worlds, and it's interesting. It's a very, it's not as obtuse as some of the point-and-click games, especially of that era, have been. It's quite straightforward, although there's a few little weird puzzles here and there, and it's challenging enough. And the story's really good. The story's really interesting. Really like the main character. The real main character was fantastically written. The whole game was fantastically written. Excellent voice acting, everything. Really, really good game. And highly recommend it if you've not played it. It's The Longest Journey. And in fact, while playing it, I found out that there are sequels to it. So I was just like, well, guess I gotta add those to my list as well. So hopefully my computer will be able to run Dreamfall, The Longest Journey is the second one. And then there's Dreamfall Chapters, which is the one that's still coming out, I believe, because it's an episodic thing. And it's still coming out, and it's going to get a PS4 release, so I'll probably get it on PS4 when it eventually gets released on PS4, unless they cancel that, in which case I need a better computer in order to be able to run Dreamfall Chapters, which is a shame, because I'm really interested in seeing more of that world. So yeah, there's that one. Been playing Parasite Eve 2 as well. Sadly, don't have access to Parasite Eve 1 because Square Enix still haven't released it as an import game on the PS3, which would have been nice if they'd done that at any point, but they haven't, so whatever. Final Fantasy Tactics should have gone up as well with it, but it hasn't, so whatever. But I have played the original Parasite Eve while I was in America. I did play it there. I didn't play all of it, but I played a good chunk of it, and I know bits about it, and I know enough about it to get by. And Parasite Eve 2 it's an interesting game. It's like a weird mixture of Resident Evil and Parasite Eve. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not, and it's got a weird sort of battle system that took some getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's actually surprisingly good. It's like I like to call it a tactical Resident Evil. Every time you encounter an enemy, it's like a tactical battle, rather than just like, oh no, I'm going to try and wiggle around them, or, fire about 1,000,000 bullets into it. It's a very interesting game. The final boss was a bit of a nightmare. It took me about 3 days to get past that. But Parasite Eve 2 is a good game, and it's just a shame that the first one never got released in Europe, ever. It's weird that the second one did, but the first one didn't, so I don't know. Shame they never made any more Parasite Eve games. Really. It's damn shame. And yeah, that's where we're at. I liked that. And I broke away from the challenge a little bit. Something I'm going to start doing is trying to maybe alternate a challenge game with something more recent, because I'd like to kind of play more of last year's games that I kind of missed out on, because there were a couple here and there, but there was nothing that really got me excited. It's more kind of looking back on them like, oh, that'd be good to check out, one game, and of course the internet was going absolutely crazy for last year, and people keep talking about and bringing up and everything. I was like, I need to play that game. So I played Undertale in between 99 and 2000. So pretty much as soon as I was about to start Resident Evil Code Veronica on the challenge, I went, no, I'm going to play Undertale first. So Undertale. I've played Undertale. And this is a game that I've seen loads of people say it has changed their life forever. It is a game that I cannot bring myself to uninstall. It means so much to me. I've seen people rave about it and rant about it and say like, oh, it is the greatest game ever according to GameFAQs, and it's alright. It's not that good, as it's not life changing as far as I'm concerned, because I actually played Earthbound, which of course Undertale is heavily inspired by, but Earthbound felt unique and interesting and its own thing. Undertale feels like someone trying to make Earthbound. That's its problem. And I think that's my main issue with it. Obviously, I don't dislike it. I actually think it's a really good game. Just didn't like it as much as people necessarily seem to love it. Like, I loved the fact that you can avoid killing anything. I love the fact that you can just, befriend characters. I liked all that because it felt strategic. Like, it sounds on paper like, oh, you can just run away from everything and you don't have to fight anything and you can be like a coward, but there's a surprising amount of tactical stuff to it, and it's actually very funny in places, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought that there's a lot of really good ideas going on in there. There was a sense that some aspects of it felt a little bit half done. It seemed like, it was made by one guy, and he did basically everything on it, so I'm not going to criticize it too heavily on, it wasn't perfect enough. It wasn't refined enough. It's someone's passion project. It's going to have rough edges, so I can kind of allow a lot of all of that. But yeah, one issue that I did have was the neutral ending, which is pretty much the first ending you have to get. I didn't really feel like it was an ending. Like, it just the game just kind of stopped and then just dumped me back in at my last save point. And I was like, okay, did I beat the game? I don't know. And then from there, I just was like, well, I don't feel fulfilled as beating this game. So I did, because I had been avoiding killing things because people had been saying about the pacifist run and all the rest of it. So I just went, alright, I'll work towards the true pacifist ending because I don't feel like I ended the game. So that's my big complaint. Like, when it happened, I was just like, well, is that it? What? Okay. So I did some research and ended up doing the pacifist ending, which I'm glad I did. I'm glad that I did. It did. The ending did redeem itself, and I'd missed the Undyne date, if you will. And when I got in, I was slightly annoyed at that whole ending situation, and I went back and did the Undyne thing, and I was immediately cheered up again. So that was good. So that redeemed itself. I still class it as a valid criticism of the game, but I don't hold it against the game, as one small blip in a game that was otherwise completely enjoyable, but it wasn't life-changing, and it did feel like someone is trying to emulate Earthbound a little bit too much. Another thing that I'll be doing to sort of break away from the challenge is I'm going to be playing, there's new games coming out quite a bit over the next few weeks, and as they come out, I'm going to try and play them. I don't want to create more of a backlog, and I don't want to be in a situation where I'm like, okay, I'm playing through every game in order, so all of these new games get put to the back of the pile. I'm not doing that. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to do that. The challenge cuts off at the end of 2014, because I started it in 2015, and lots of games came out after I'd started the challenge, so that's why I'm trying to catch up on a lot of those, which I'll do sort of on and off basis. In between years, I'll probably play a 2015 game, but also I might play like new games as I go along. But as games that are coming out in the coming months, I play them as I get them. That is how I'm doing it, and they're alternating with the old games. So I'm trying to get through everything while simultaneously working towards, while not missing out on the games that are coming out now. What this is leading up to is the fact that it was recently my birthday. I didn't advertise it because I didn't want to make a fuss. But one thing that I got for my birthday, for my birthday wish list, I had a bunch of games on it originally. Then basically all of those games got delayed until after my birthday. So there was Mirror's Edge, there was Uncharted 4, Ratchet and Clank, Star Fox Zero, and Pokken. Out of those 5, one of them got released before my birthday. Now, okay, so Uncharted 4 and Mirror's Edge got delayed to May. Star Fox, its final release date ended up being the week after my birthday. Ratchet and Clank's an interesting one though, because it is out in America, but it's not out in the UK. And I am getting Ratchet and Clank as a birthday present when it actually comes out in the UK. So that's an interesting factor. But I bought Star Fox Zero, so yeah. So I'll be getting that Friday. You might wonder, oh, you're going to do a Ferrets First on Ratchet and Clank. Why don't you do one on Pokken? Why don't you do one on Star Fox? Nintendo is why I don't want to do Ferrets First on either of those. Like, I got away with Bayonetta because it was not originally a Nintendo game, but I don't want to take my chances with Pokken or Star Fox or any other Nintendo game for that matter. I don't want to get content ID'd by them at all. It's why I kind of dropped the idea of following up the PlayStation All-Stars stuff with a Smash Brothers thing. I was just like, you know what, I don't want to deal with that mess of getting content ID'd out the arse. So, forget it. So I didn't do a thing on Pokken, and I won't do a thing on Star Fox. So, sorry about that. But I've been playing Pokken. It's a very good game. One of my big things about it that I really have to talk about with Pokken is I'm not good at fighting games. And the reason I'm not good at fighting games is because I just don't have the patience to sit down and sort of memorize all the stuff that I need to memorize and learn all the things I need to learn by just sitting in practice mode and trying to figure things out. I would love to be able to learn how to play a fighting game well. I would love to. Like, I see people playing fighting games to pro level, and I'm just like, I want to be able to do that, but I have no idea where to start. And when people say like, oh, just, examine the thing and go into the practice mode and play it, as soon as I sit in the practice mode, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what to do. Like, all I want is a little bit of guidance, a little bit of a push in the right direction as to like, oh, this is a thing to try, and this is part of the mechanics. Pokken explains all of this. Pokken does exactly what I wish more fighting games would do. So you load up the game, and you get a brief introduction to the world, and you get, here's the league and all this kind of stuff. And then you go onto the map, where you can go straight into battles and all the rest of it. But what happens is the game then goes, I recommend that you take the tutorial. So you go to the practice area. First option you got is tutorial. So you go there, and it explains all the mechanics. It takes you through each bit. Here's all the things you need to know about how to play this game, and it's fantastic. Like, I came out of that feeling like, I know how to beat this game, I know how to play this game, I know how to get through this. I'm probably nowhere near any sort of pro level, but as the game progressed and ramped up in difficulty, what normally happens in fighting games as that happens and I'm just getting like pummeled to bits is always this sense of like, how do I block? How do I do it? How do I counter this? How do I combat that factor? How do I combat this? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to do all the half circle moves and I'm flailing around because I just don't know what I'm doing. But Pokken, as it progressed and got harder, I started going, oh, okay, so that went wrong, that went there. If I remember from the tutorial, there is this mechanic and I can try and apply that and it would work. And it was amazing. And I had such a wonderful experience with Pokken. It is probably the best experience I've ever had with a fighting game. More fighting games need to do that. They really need to do that. So that's my first thing. It's a bit of a weird one, Pokken. Obviously, I should probably explain, for those of you who don't know what Pokken is, it's the Pokemon Tekken thing. So it's a fighting game where it's all Pokemon. And it's a lot of fun. It is a really, really solid game. Really enjoyed playing through it. And it's just a really quirky little title, but it's easy to pick up and it's easy to figure out, and it explains itself, like I said. If I do have any criticisms of it, I think my big one is they try and put a plot in there. Like you go through the league and there's little bits of plot as you go through involving Shadow Mewtwo. And then after you've done the first 3 leagues, you go on this little side quest to track down Shadow Mewtwo, and then it all goes back to the final league. And those side quest things felt like if there'd been more of that, it would have been a little bit more interesting. Like if they'd broken that up and expanded that a little bit more, so you were fighting more side battles and things like that. Yeah, that's just me, though. I don't know how other people who played the game felt about that, but that's how I felt about it. That felt like an afterthought. It felt like, I mean, obviously the point isn't the story, it's a fighting game. The story is never the point of a fighting game. But the fact that it was so obviously half-assed that I was just like, what's the point? But yeah, I praise them for trying to do something and try and break up the league system, but they should have done more with it if they were going to do it. Either they should have either not done it at all or done more with it, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, that's Pokken. Pokken, I recommend it. It's a very fun game, and I am really enjoying playing it. And Weevil is probably my favourite character, because I always gravitate towards the speedy characters. The speedy characters who can do sneaky things. That's Weevil, and he's great. He's just super speedy, and he's got tons of different moves that can be used in all sorts of situations, and I think he's great. And I just can't get into like a lot of the powerful characters. I'm struggling to figure out how to use Charizard. And I'm sure there are people who play that game who are swearing by him, but me, it's the little ice cat weasel. I like him. He's fun. So, yes. What about video game news? I've got random bits of notes over the past few weeks over things. I don't know how much of this is relevant to anything. I don't even know if there's anything more interesting off the back of this. So I'm probably going to run through a lot of this really quickly, rather than going into any of this in depth, because it's a bit of a mess of the last few weeks. So, I mean, there are a bunch of controversies that I really don't want to get involved in. The internet got mad at an arse, I believe. I don't know what all that was about, but I've given up on following any of these sort of drama things that are going on in the games community. Every time it comes up, I just roll my eyes at everybody involved in them, quite frankly. Just like, you're complaining over nothing, and you're just stoking the fires for no good reason. And I'm done. I'm out. Bye. I'm just going to play some actual games and just not care about what you guys are saying. And yeah, I'm not going to talk any more about any of those. I just felt like bringing it up that there have been controversies, and they're all silly. They're all ridiculous. Calm down. I think the last time we did a Chatty Corner, I talked about the leaked NX controller, which turned out was a fake. or rather it was two elaborate fakes. It was someone did a CGI version and then someone got the model of the CGI one and made a 3D printed model of it, and that was what the more plausible fake was. So, there we go. That's fun. Yeah, at least that's probably not going to be the controller. We'll find out. I just want Nintendo to just finally announce something about this NX, because we know it's happening, but we know nothing about it. So the internet's just going, "Oh, is this what the NX is? Oh, is this an NX? Oh, what's happening? We don't know." And people just want to know, and it's getting ridiculous. The developer of That Dragon Cancer criticised Let's Plays and blamed them for low sales of his game, which of course is a niche game, which isn't going to sell billions of copies anyway. And also there was a lot of criticism of the interactive elements of his game, which sort of says the reason why people probably watched Let's Plays of it more was because they couldn't be asked with any of the really awkward interactive elements of that game, which is kind of interesting when the things you're criticizing about a video game are the bits where you play the game. Obviously, this isn't, this is divorced completely from the subject matter of that game, which of course is very sad and very important message and all that kind of stuff. But just like how films about like loss and longing are never big box office draws, your game isn't going to be like that either. So I don't know what you're expecting. Also ignoring the fact that a lot of the millions of views on some of the Let's Plays of it were more down to the person playing the game and not so much the game itself. Which, a lot of people who watch Let's Plays regularly tend to watch for the personalities. So I'm assuming that that's why you guys watch what I do, rather than you really, really wanting to see Tomb Raider stuff. I mean, it's probably how you got here, but yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting thing of just, all these millions of views on this video, they didn't buy my game. It's like, maybe they watched the video to decide whether or not they wanted to buy the game, and then thought, nah. And that's more of a criticism of your game than the people playing your game on the internet. I felt like that needed to be addressed, because that's obviously, it was weeks ago, but it's something that I thought was a good point of discussion. But of course, I've kind of had to rattle through it very quickly because it was weeks ago. But that's my point on it. Is just the guy was completely missing the point, I think. Also, the game, I believe, retailed really, really expensively on release. It's like a 2-hour narrative-driven game. It's very linear, no replay value. 20 quid. I'm like, no. Less than a tenner for something like that, really. I'm not someone who normally goes, well, the length of a game is important to me. I want my 50 quid game to be 40 hours long. I don't, especially as I'm doing this challenge where I've got 118 unfinished games plus a bunch of games that I'm trying to 100% and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, I want the games to be as short as possible, please. But if you can play through it in a few hours, but then you can go back to it and you can do new things with it and you can play around with other things, then yeah, that's great. That's fine. Yeah, that's where I put my value. But a 2-hour linear narrative game about cancer, not really worth 20 quid for most people. So that's also a factor. So yeah, that's that. One thing that I find kind of interesting is, obviously in my challenge I'm coming up to 2000. And one of the games that's going to be coming up very soon for me to play is Fear Effect, which was this old PS1 game that was very, very cinematic, very FMV driven. But it was kind of like if you imagine Resident Evil, but even more FMV driven. That's what Fear Effect was. It was I did a thing on it. I think I did an advent calendar video on this, actually. I don't know why I'm explaining this to you. You've seen me play it, I believe. I think I did an advent calendar video on this. If I didn't, then whoops. But I should have done. I seem to remember doing it. So, yeah, that's what it was. That was Fear Effect. That game's coming up. I've never beaten that game, so hopefully I'll beat it as part of my challenge. It's a very fiddly game, so that's why I've not beaten it before. Hopefully I can get my head around it. I beat Parasite Eve 2's final boss, so I'm ready to take on anything now. But there's a new one. Hey! So it is news, don't worry. I wasn't just rambling. I wasn't just randomly going back onto the challenge. Now there is a new game. Because Square Enix, I think it was last year, they opened up a thing to say, hey indie developers, want to use one of our IPs to resurrect an old IP that we've not used in a while to try and, like, bring it back? And I think there were three. There was one that I can never remember, because it was one that I'd never heard of before. Then there was Gex. Why anyone would want to bring Gex back, I don't know, but that was an option. And then the third one was Fear Effect, and it looks like a developer has taken them up on that offer and is going to be making a new game, which appears to be in Kickstarter, because Square Enix are just kind of lending them the IP and just going, it's up to you now. So it's basically the indie developer has to do all the grunt work, including like getting financing, which I find bizarre, and then Square Enix profit off it. Hey! Yeah, that sounds great. But anyway, Fear Effect is coming back, and the people who are making this game have turned it into a top-down isometric strategy game. And I'm like, that kind of misses the point of what the game was originally. It was like a Resident Evil style sort of stealth game thing. You know, that's what it was. It was kind of point and clicky almost. And I'm like, why didn't you try and do something similar to that? That's kind of what it was. I believe that the title of the game is tied in with the mechanics of the game, so changing the mechanics of the game make it not really the same game. So that's a bit disappointing. I've never played the second one. I did see it at Comic-Con and I didn't pick it up even though I considered it, but I bought a GameCube instead. So, I think the second one won't be on PSN. I might pick it up, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's interesting how that's coming back, but in a way that isn't really what it used to be. Be interesting to see if someone brings back Gex. If someone's taken them up on that offer, that'd be hilarious. Just to see how bad a modern day Gex game would be. Think of all the memes that Gex is just going to spout off eternally. I wonder what British voice actor they're going to get this time to do the UK version. I'm trying to think who. It's probably going to be like a YouTuber. Like, it'll still be Dana Gold in the US version, but it'll be like some random UK YouTuber for the UK version. You just watch. That's how it'll work. If they do, which I doubt they will. The only people who seem to want Gex back are people who have fond memories of playing Gex, but have never touched one of those games in years, and have forgotten how obnoxious those games were. I've played them both again fairly recently, part of the challenge, and I was just like, yeah, nope. So, but in terms of good 3D platformers, the new Ratchet & Clank, which of course, as I've said, I'm going to be doing a Ferrets first on, has been getting rave reviews, and that makes me very happy. So, hopefully, it'll be good. So, that's all I've got really. Hopefully, I'll be able to talk a bit more about news a little bit better next week. This has kind of just been a way of like bringing back the Chatty Corner, so I'm kind of covering a lot of stuff and trying to get through it as quickly as possible. Yeah, that's everything really. In summary, Gravity Rush continues and will continue for weeks to come. Months, probably. But I'm all caught up on recording, just about. I'm doing a lot of the extra stuff before the final chapter this week, so we're good. What else? Tomb Raider's going to be starting in the coming month. You're getting an avalanche of Ferrets firsts, including, hopefully, Ratchet & Clank on Friday, assuming the game shows up. And that's everything, really. Check the description for all the usual links and stuff. And let me know any comments down below, and I will bring them back up next week. Don't worry, it's just a long period of time. I was just like, I'm going to drop that part for this week only. So, thank you for listening, and yeah, I'll see you around. Thank you very much. I love you all. Bye.